Well, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is continuing his diplomatic mission in Ukraine on Wednesday. He met President Volodymyr Zelenskyy on Tuesday, where he confirmed installments of a new U.S. weapons package had already begun arriving in the country. Congress recently passed $61 billion of military aid. Ukraine is facing intensified Russian attacks in the Kharkiv region. In the latest Russian strikes, a 20-story building in the city center was hit, and at least 20 people were injured, but there's no confirmation of any fatalities. John Holman. John, you're joining us from Kharkiv. Tell us what you're seeing and hearing around you.
Well, what we're hearing, especially from the front line, which is about 30 kilometers away from here, is the Russian offensive, which began in Friday, into northeastern Ukraine. This Kharkiv region is slowing. That's what military analysts and Ukrainian officials are saying. There could be a couple of reasons for that. One, that Ukraine has stiffened up its defenses there. It's tried to put reinforcements into that area to slow the Russian advance up. And the other is that in March, Russian President Vladimir Putin was talking about trying to establish a sort of buffer zone so that Ukraine couldn't strike airily so easily Belgorod, for example, the city on the Russian side of the border. And it might be that Russian forces feel that they've done enough with the territory that so far they've taken or are trying to take to avoid that. So it might be a point in which they're slowing up for that reason. But that doesn't mean that this is all over, this fresh push. The head of Ukrainian military intelligence has said that there's also Russian forces that are building up on the Russian side of the border of the Sumy region in Ukraine. That's right next door to Kharkiv. Now, if those forces try to cross there as well, and Ukraine has been expecting that for a while, it's been building trenches and defenses there, it's going to further stretch the Ukrainian line at a moment when it's already overextended and it doesn't have enough manpower.
And John, the U.S. Secretary of State is on the second day of his visit to the country. What's he said so far, and is he promising anything?
Well, the main message almost from the moment he stepped off the train into Kyiv was, "You are not alone." It's understood that his visit's been planned for some time. He hasn't come just because of what's happening right now, but that's probably a moment that Ukraine and the Ukrainian government are pleased to be hearing. He talked about the military aid package that's come from the United States, $61 billion. Part of that is coming in now, but a lot more of it is going to take months to still arrive. But he said it's proof that there's a commitment from the United States and also from Europe, who have similar packages, that they're not going to leave Ukraine alone, that President Vladimir Putin and Russia can't just outweigh that help from the US and European allies. He also talked about fresh commitments that he said would come in the NATO summit in July. But I think those commitments, as we understand it, are not that there will be regular weapon arrivals timetabled and contracted for Ukraine. And that's what this country, and also the head of NATO in an earlier visit, has said that they really need not just the one-off military aid packages, especially with changes of leadership. For example, in the United States, there's a November election. If Donald Trump is the next president, he's been a lot more skeptical of aid coming in. The other thing that he talked about at the end of his speech was the fact that Ukraine, he said, needed to win its war against corruption. That's been a big thing. Even during this war, one defense minister has had to quit over scandals of overpricing for equipment and jackets that have been coming in the military. And all of the regional heads of recruitment last summer also were forced to step down after accusations of bribes being paid to them so that people could get out of being on the front line. So challenges ahead for Ukraine that he also referred to.
Okay, John, thank you. John Holman reporting from Kharkiv.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.